Hi, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to this 52nd episode of Techno Crime Fighters Forum. I'm Ramola D, and I'm here with Dr. Catherine Horton, NSA whistleblower Karen Stewart, and Dr. Millicent Black. We're looking for and expecting another person to join us today, a very special guest, Stephen Shellen. But we've problems this morning. So if he is unable to join us, we're still trying to figure out if he can join us. I hope he can join us, and I hope the link that I sent him earlier will work. If not, I'm going to be sending him the link again in a minute. So just to let people know again what we're all about and who we are here to speak openly about surveillance state abuse and about the use of electromagnetic weapons, microwave weapons, milliwave weapons, sonic weapons, scalar weapons on civilians in the US, in Canada, in Mexico, in South America, in Europe, in Zurich, where Dr. Horton is, in the UK, in Asia, in Australia, New Zealand, pretty much, and Africa, in every continent, all over the world. Presumably, we think under the one agency, which Dr. Horton has spoken quite extensively about how all the intelligence agencies are indeed working with each other, something Susie Dawson has found as well through her exploration of the NSA Snowden documents, that the NSA has contracts with intelligence agencies around the world to use other people's satellites, to use their hardware, and to work with their intelligence agencies. So because of the situation, humanity is being oppressed. Some people do not know it, but some people do. The electronic control grid, the cell towers, the satellites, potable dews, all of these are being used against humanity currently. And it's humanity that needs to speak out, and we are stepping forward and striving to do that. So on that note, perhaps I can turn the floor over to Catherine, and she can start the morning with.
Okay. Yes.
Oh,
okay.
we lost her.
Catherine.
Yes, I think, sorry, I'm here. I just had to unmute. Hello, everyone. So there are a couple of news from my end. I would like to have a quick run through because a lot has been happening. I'm being massively delayed on my projects because of the attacks. I'm getting feedback from one microphone. I'm not sure which one it is. They're amplifying it. I get a loud buzzing sound on my end. I don't know. Okay, so everybody who's thank you. Everybody who's listening, sorry, this is our weekly game with the intelligence agencies where they basically play around with the volume, with the background, and it's kind of unpredictable, but they can amplify the background noise and then really, blast one computer with it. So anyway, actually on the topic, I would like everybody to document every single aspect of cyber hacking that they're getting. If they freeze your computer, always have a mobile phone next to you, ideally in flight mode, and then film how your computer freezes and so on. And because this is all relevant for court cases. And generally, I also last week or the week before, I put out an appeal about photographing gang stalkers. And I really think we should, because these people are not just actively involved in the terror campaign. A lot of them are being trained up in the use of electromagnetic weapons. And I feel that these are they are trained assassins of sorts, and we need to track their progress through society, because these people, if they are earning a killing, in inverted commas, now with this, they will probably want to do that in future, having not just the know-how, but also the equipment. These people will be basically a permanent danger to society. So unless they are tried in court and basically banned from doing this forever, any one of your gang stalkers can basically start irradiating the neighborhood and, continue the Holocaust program. So I really think we should get serious. And I don't think we should take gang stalkers to be something benign. This is what the police and, the authorities want us to believe, that, it's just gang stalkers and it's just all in your head. No. As far as what I've seen, based on what I've seen, these people are being trained. Okay, they are being trained. Networks are being formed. These gang stalkers network among each other. Senior handlers can also make a private business out of this, and many do. And what the intelligence agencies have done is set up trained death squads that will plague us for time to come. So I think every single victim is basically going through the system, mapping it out. Every victim comes into contact with neighbors who might be hired and who might be, slow killers. A victim will come into contact with companies that are fraudulent, employees at companies, and also many gang stalkers who are all in this. And we have to remember, these people are being trained. They are being trained in a very sophisticated manner. And now that I've seen the extent of these floating death squads with directed energy weapons being shot at me from cars, from rucksacks carried by pedestrians, and from flats actually high up on the street where I was shot in the head. I actually thought it's a satellite, and then I thought, no, it's actually the first floor up there where somebody's standing next to the window. So all of this is happening. But basically every single person you catch, I think you should make a photo, you should back it all up, and then when it comes to court cases, we can go back, and actually these intelligence agencies have a record of everything. They collect everything and they pay these people wages, or they give out, vouchers so that they can't be tracked. Either way, they know who they are paying. So these people are on the books somewhere. And it is my view that in court, we can, especially in the discovery phase, when you can pin down a gang stalker who has the usual hand signs and is, appears, for example, in part of a stalking setup that looks very professional, we can go back to the intelligence agencies and say, okay, who exactly was this person? Because he's doing something illegal. You don't have a right to be covering up for your employees or associates and informants when they're doing something illegal. Can we please have his name so that we can sue him directly? At the end of the day, it is our right to sue our attackers and, have them appear in court. So this is the line of, that I'm following. Now, I want to announce all the stuff that I've cocked up this week and that I promise not to cock up for next week, and I'll explain why. Number one is the letter to the neighbors. I didn't get to finish it, but I want to finish it this week. And this week, I want to inform my entire neighborhood, because the attacks have gone so severe that this is now truly insane, even within the insanity of the system. So I also would like to explain to people very briefly, because I think it's important, what I did to actually make my bunker better. So I moved away from the just freely hanging aluminium foil to something that I think is known as Reflectix in the US. And it's this kind of the silver stuff that you can see around me. But I would like to show you that I managed to make a roof over my head made of bamboo sticks like that. Okay, and these wooden things that you can see in the background there, I've got two actually taped to the leg of the desk that I'm sitting at. So I've got these support grids all the way above my desk. And the reason why this was necessary is because as soon as I made a cylinder around my work area that protected me from the neighbors, I started being shot at from drones. And these drones you can hear, especially at night when everything is silent. To me, it sounds like a permanent engine sound that is just coming and going like a helicopter. And it goes literally on for hours and hours. So that is targeted, machine gun artillery from above. I also noticed, I'm not sure if this is done by the stalkers, but I'm also in the flight path from Zurich airport. So the planes take off on the other side of a hill and then fly overhead. And every single time I can hear a machine basically appear from the sound is audible above the hill, suddenly my bunker is being shot into so violently that it makes a loud banging sound. Now, this could be then my dear neighbors who can hear the planes as well as I can, shooting to kind of condition me to associate the planes with the shots. That could be. But then again, these shots are so intense that it reminds me of those images of lasers that were mounted in the nose of commercial airliners, not just military aircraft. And those are big, kick-ass laser systems, okay? So the adverts for that you can find all over the military industrial complex. But I'm wondering if actually commercial jets, passenger jets, have all been fitted with these lasers who can be remote controlled in this integrated assault system. And when the plane is literally above my house, the laser will just be triggered, by remote control to fire a shot at me. Also possible. But, if anybody has observed some similar stuff, please record it, note it down, and try to record these things. I already have several people who reported seeing drones. One person was in Canada. He said that his entire community is being, shot at with drones, and another person from the US. So the drones seem to be a big thing. But I think also, since Jade Helm, we know that all this is moving towards one big integrated warfare system whereby some central AI nodes are trying to control, you know, the theater of war, as they say, which will be your local neighborhood. Okay, so these theaters of war are being basically blasted from absolutely every integrated system. This would be the mobile phone system, the 5G assault system, also the previous 3 and 4G can trigger your chips. The electricity grid that can also be pulsed to send signals, and basically it can be used to send Wi-Fi and many other things. So your mobile phone antennas around you. So literally the big antennas that you have in here can be triggered. So bottom line, I think in court we have to blow open every single one of these, okay, individually. And the planes are, I think, part of it. So I just wanted to mention that. But for all the victims, if you want to, you know, protect yourself, so far, I actually found the reflectix to be very good. It's the only reason why I can even sit here. Because by now, I mean, when they really get going, you can hear it, but it's about 3 or 4 shots per second that is being fired into here. So if I didn't have this, I can't exist, which is the situation when I go into the kitchen to make myself a cup of tea. So I recommend making a big cylinder, make the reflectix, you know, go to the ceiling, like 2.30 meters in Europe, you know, and then do it around, and then also make a kind of dome above yourself for the drones, you know. So this is the report of that. The information for the neighborhood should be hopefully finished by this weekend. Please watch my Twitter for that. And then the other thing I also want to say is the affidavit, the affidavit draft. This has been, you know, promised since October. Now, the affidavit draft is pretty extensive and complete, but Millicent made a very good point. She said, if you can't finish it, it's too long. And how do you expect victims who are, you know, hit much harder than you to finish it? And she's got a point. So one of the things I'm preparing is basically a short form of the affidavit. And this would be very, very almost like a tick box format, where victims submit maybe like a, you know, 2 to 4 pages of just tick box. You know, have you experienced gang stalking, directed energy weapons, blah, 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 blah. So you can tick it quickly. But I still want it signed and notarized, okay? So it will have, you know, legal standing. But also be aware that a tick box affidavit doesn't stand up in court because it's too imprecise. You have to put it in your own words. But this way you can basically record your victim case as quickly as possible, you know, put it on file with us, and then you can submit a longer affidavit that's more detailed. But we would need the detailed stuff for court. You know, but either way, I think should something happen to you and we have an affidavit where you have already said you had break-ins and all these things, you know, as we're rolling up these cases, we can make an argument for you in court that you're actually the victim of this, you know, Holocaust program. So I know people have been waiting for this affidavit draft for a long time, but just please bear with me, because what I'm trying to do is something that will be used for years, hopefully. That's why it takes so bloody long. But in the meantime, you know, keep writing up your affidavit and especially collect the evidence. So this is what I would like to report for now. I've got other things that I can say about court cases, but I would like to pass the microphone on to the next person. Who wants to go next about the brief report? I don't know. Millicent, Karen? Actually, Millicent is talking.
Now, I'll just give a quick update on where I am. Today is the 3rd week, or the end of the 3rd week of me being at a rehab center, getting rehabilitation for the right knee replacement revision that ended up being amputation of some bone in my femur and the installation of a steel rod in that place. Rehab has been going really well. I will be non-weight bearing for the next 5 weeks. So if you all can imagine what it's like hopping on one leg and doing everything without being able to put your foot down, that's me. The difficult thing has been the continued sleep deprivation, as well as the horrendous microwave assaults to my back, my buttocks, my thighs. I've actually been ordering ice packs, not for my leg, but for my back, to make it more tolerable while I sit. That's been quite unusual. I've continued also to have the constant subliminal messaging, and voice to skull, which then makes it trauma-based mind control. The torture with the talking and the instructions in the voice of a specific person who would be considered a handler or someone who would be trying to control your behavior is considered trauma-based mind control.
Oops, Millicent just dropped out. Actually, okay, while Millicent is dropping out, I'll give her the microphone back as soon as she's back. But I briefly wanted to say a couple of things. The campaign for Millicent is still on. She's being assaulted in rehab with, as she said, assaults to her back and heating of her implants. So this is basically as low as you can get. The person attacking her is basically Randall Webster. Okay, and one of the things I would like to show, sorry, my browser has been just crashed again. One of the things I would like to take you to is everybody who hasn't done so, please, can you fill out a letter or any sort of support letter for Millicent? May I just share my screen? So please go to my website, which is stop007.org. And then if you go here to the campaign for Millicent, it will take you to her site. But if you click on contact these people, there's a PDF with all the people who we need to contact. These are the people who can act. They haven't so far, but these people can act to stop the assaults against Millicent. And I've just extended this document, and on the last page, I put in the 2 FBI heads of special agents in charge of FBI Memphis and FBI Knoxville. And these are the 2 FBI officers, field officers, that have been contacted about Millicent's case and have refused to act. Please go here and write to these people. And I also would like to say, when you click on Millicent's page, you have already the interview with her, these documents and how you can support her. And you also have MRI images of the chips in her thigh and the horrific damage that has been done to her bone structure by directed energy weapons, basically shooting out bits of the bone. You can see the bone damage quite clearly here. And that's the only reason why this second surgery is even necessary. It was basically non-stop assault by this group, run by Randall Webster, as far as we can tell. There's more documents to come, and there are also some small errors in the text which are entirely mine. So Millicent has been correcting them. I didn't have time to put them up yet. But by and large, overall, the case as it stands here is entirely correct. And what's so idiotic and insane about this is we know exactly who the perpetrator is. He's training up a huge team, and the FBI refuses to arrest Randall Webster. So that's the current status. But I ask you all to please support Millicent. Sorry, Millicent is back. I'll pass the microphone back.
Thanks. While I was talking, the tablet was just turned off. Not because it didn't have power. It was just turned off. I'm trying to get home. We had a trial run, and my step is too deep for me to jump up on one foot. So I'm having to see what arrangements I can make for that. Otherwise, I'd have to stay here at the rehab center until that can be taken care of. But the other thing that's important for me, and I only share this because it's an opportunity for the nation to learn what it's like to be a targeted individual, the amount of medical attention that is required to sometimes just maintain your health. So we're not just put into a program of human experimentation, but it's costing exorbitant amounts of money. The hospital bill for the surgery itself was $300,000. That doesn't include the cost for the rehab or the cost for the rehab once I leave this center. I've had to have rehab 5 days a week here, 2 times a day. When I leave the center for the next 12 weeks, for the next 9 weeks, I'll have to have rehab 3 times a week. But then I also have a cardiologist waiting to work with me further because I've got plaque in all four of my arteries. Listen to this, which could be a result of silicone in my blood. Silicone coming from the implants. So that's a concern, and that's something that's being that has to be addressed. I also have now developed scoliosis at 64 years old. Never had it, but it's a result of the constant heating of my spine and my back. That means that my spine has literally been shifted to the left. It could affect my heart and my lungs. But you see, people are being allowed to do this to human beings, to Americans, to men, women, and children. For what? For sport? What kind of war are they practicing for? How long does it take to learn a skill? I can prove that everything that's being done to me has already been cleared and unclassified through the Air Force Research Laboratory. So it is no longer experimentation. It is what Lynn Segala, a scientist for Lockheed Martin, said. It's simply slow kill. But then why and at what point do you set humans loose to just slowly torture people to death? And I want to emphasize it's not just men and women, it is also children. So I do have spine injuries, I have back injuries. So you see, we're talking about everything that it takes for a person to earn a living, to have any quality of life. I mean, anyone who have back problems know what it's like. So what's going to be the condition, the health condition of this nation in 10 years? The person that's making money will be the healthcare profession and the pharmaceutical industry. Who's going to be able to work and pay those taxes that are being used for what else? That's important for us to think about right now. And the programs that are ran in the school systems by the Department of Defense, what exactly are they looking for? Do they have our children in terminal experiments? Are they looking to produce monarch slaves? So they choose the creme de creme. What happens to the rest of them? We're talking K through 12, 5 years old to 18 years old. And if they have to continue to live in a nation such as ours, where the space-based weapons are being allowed to run rampant, what's going to be their health condition by 18 years old or by 28 years old? These things we must think about. We must consider that unless we all speak out, unless we hold our public servants accountable, unless we make our wishes known at the polls, then we're going to be, we aren't making a loud enough statement that not only do we want to live, but we want our children and our children's children to have an opportunity to enjoy what the Constitution said we should have a right to: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But that's kind of what I have to say. I mean, I am a walking, talking example of the results of directed energy weapons being allowed to be used rampantly on someone just because. He used to say just for the hell of it.
And you're someone who's had pretty darn good health, or you should have, based on your family's health.
Absolutely.
I mean, some people, it's terrible. I mean, genetics, sometimes you look at other people who you think, oh my gosh, they graduated the same year I did and they look 20 years older. So it's a combination of being blessed and born with good genetics, but also taking care of yourself. And that's what people don't understand, that the targeted individuals, when they're basically hit with directed energy weapons, gases, poisons, implantations that destroy the body from within, they're being robbed of the health that they had and should still have, but are losing. And they may die, 10, 20, 30 years early, from being assaulted daily, 24/7. Now, what police department would allow somebody to come to your house and hit you once a day?
Right.
And yet this is 1,000 times worse. It's just really shocking. I mean, it just goes to show that the Constitution has absolutely, totally been subverted from legalistic sleight of hand. And these people who can do this and are doing it regard all of us as property. I mean, the fences and the walls and things like that are supposed to keep foreigners out really ultimately are going to keep your possessions in, meaning the corporatocracy's a possession of human beings. And I've said it before, they are at the point of thinking that anybody who's born in good health is useless. We can't make money off this person. They have too good a health. Well, let's use them to degrade their bodies, to figure out how to reverse engineer and then make the money off the people who are born damaged, who are born diseased, who get injured, who get, basically DNA-based problems. So we're going to use the healthy ones to sacrifice them so that we can keep this business of curing people of illnesses and diseases going so that we can make our money. And the healthy ones, if there are too many healthy people, we'll just make them diseased and damaged, and then we'll make our money off of them. It's just obscene. Yeah. It's predator prey. We're dividing into a civilization, and it's not a civilization, but we're developing into a society that is based on predator prey. And the predators get to say if you live and die, and if you die of what, and how soon and when. So this is a nightmare. This is a dystopian nightmare that 90% of the people don't even know exists. We're trying to wake them up before it's too late, people. If you think that, these are just, if you believe us and you say, well, this is just unfortunate people, I'm going to keep my head down, be quiet, I'm not going to criticize anything, I'm never going to report any type of wrongdoing because that seems to be really bad, and then maybe this will go away and they'll leave me alone. Well, you've already lost. You've already doomed your children and your grandchildren. Because are you going to have children and grandchildren who never stand up for themselves? Right. Because one day one of them is going to, and then they're going to bring Armageddon down on the family. And they won't even know that they've done it. They will just have said, no, that's not right. And that would be enough. Because you're dealing with malignant narcissists. And they will come. Sorry, I was saying they'll come after you for just blinking. So you cannot take the head in the sand approach because it'll be too late, and it's very close to that anyway. Sorry, I keep getting phone calls on my phone that I'm using for this broadcast.
The
but you're right, it's about the future.
Yeah, and the point that you make, Karen, about everybody being involved is actually very, very important. I was speaking earlier this morning with Melanie Richen about precisely this. What's happening to her, what's happened to her is not just about herself and her situation, but it's about what ICATOR, the human rights organization that she's founded is not just about those who are targeted, those who are covertly implanted. It's about everybody, really. It's everybody in Europe, everybody in Belgium, where she is, everybody in the US, where we are, everybody in Switzerland, where Catherine is. Why? Because the fact of the matter is, if your local police station, your local FBI, your local military group is happily using directed energy non-lethal weapons on the population. How exactly do you know that they're not being used on you? You actually don't. And I think, Millicent, we've all talked about this, right? When people suddenly start getting ill, they suddenly start getting chronic diseases. And then they think, oh, it's because heart disease runs in my family and arthritis runs in my family and whatever, gallbladder disease runs in my family. I must be getting old. I must be, just manifesting these genetic
Or it
things.
doesn't run in their families and they just think, man, I'm just unlucky.
They think they're unlucky, but in actuality, we know, those of us who know that we are being hit because we can measure the signals in our bodies, and many of us are indeed reporting implants which have been detected through RFID detectors or MRIs or X-rays. We happen to be a portion of the population that has awakened to the use of directed energy weapons on the population and on our bodies. But I contend that there is a vast population, possibly the entire population, that is actually being hit with these stealth radiation weapons and has no clue that they're being hit
Absolutely.
with these weapons.
Absolutely. Romola, it was 1997 that my
Mhm.
cousin said to me, Millicent, the devil is playing with your mind. And then she said, and when he gets through playing with you, he's going to destroy you. And when they open you up after you're dead, they will find that all your organs have been stressed. Microwave energy stresses the organs because it heats the body. I have an unclassified document from Army Intelligence and Security at Fort George Meade, Maryland, that talks about microwave heating and the damage it does to the tissue, and microwave hearing that can make someone think they were hearing voices. I know that my organs are constantly being stressed because as I sit like in this chair, I can begin to feel heat to my back. And just this past Friday, I met another young woman who was actually looking at, I think, a Techno Crime Fighters Forum last week. She's from New Hampshire. She was traveling this side of the nation. She was in Memphis when she saw it. She called and asked if she could come up and meet me personally. So when she got here, I asked her to put her hand behind my back and tell me if she could feel the heat, and she could. But by me sitting and having my back heated, it enlarges my heart. It can putrefy food and stop my digestion in my stomach, and it does. It could also inflame my spleen and my pancreas. As a result, I am what's considered pre-diabetic, but it's between the microwave abuse and the sleep deprivation. So you see all these things. I mean, they could say, well, she's just in bad health. No, I'm being forced into compromised health. But someone knew about it 21 years ago. Now, my determination has been they're not going to have to open me up after I'm dead for an autopsy and decide what to tell. I'm determined to tell what is being done to me while I live. I'm determined to get the medical evidence now. And it's murder, premeditated, decided murder if I should die from any of the injuries, not something that happened because I did not take care of myself.
Yeah, none of us want a gravestone that says, see, I told you so.
Right.
And that's what the police are basically saying to us. Well, if they kill you, we'll look into it. Thank you.
Well, no, actually, Chief Potts said, if he should kill you, we'll get to your daughter, meaning my youngest child, who he constantly threatens to me about how he tortures her, and that he will put her in my place to receive this horrendous mistreatment
Did the Chief Potts actually said that to you? That
to
if
my
you,
face.
Oh, wow. So Chief Potts said to you, if you die, well, we just move on to your daughter. Basically, we'll get to your daughter. Is that what he said?
Well, the implication is that they will get to her to protect her.
Yeah. Well, as
Yeah.
much as they protected you. Exactly.
Exactly.
So, you know what?
Exactly.
I think what you heard, Millicent, and I want to make this absolutely public. This is now my view in the whole matter. I have spoken with Chief Potts and also with Captain Potts, and it is my view that given that you're giving them a daily update about your harassment and have been giving them for years a daily update on what is actually being done to you, these people, Chief Potts, Tim Potts, and Captain Troy Potts, they are criminals. They are criminals and they are 100% in on it because they have been given repeated evidence. The fact that he makes this comment, oh, we'll get to daughter, well, a woman who says, I need your help, and you deny your help, and then he has the audacity to say, well, if you die, we'll get to your daughter. It doesn't mean, oh, well, if you die, that's only when we have sufficient evidence, so that's when we're going to help your daughter. No, I think it is Illuminati double speak. I think Chief Potts is part of this whatever fraternity of police that has a satanic star and has the Freemasonic logo. The Freemasons are a Nazi organization. They always have been and they always will be. And what Chief Potts is actually saying when he says that is exactly Illuminati Freemason double speak, as in, oh, we'll get to your daughter, meaning you will move on to your daughter, exactly as you said. And the one thing I want to make public is it is my analysis that he put it orally to confirm that. So with that, I think Chief Potts has to receive the death penalty because he is actually misusing his office and he is taking part in human trafficking. And he actually, he jeered you by saying that. He jeered to me, and he even jeered, and that was Troy Potts, he jeered about Millicent to me on the phone. And that's one thing I'm going to make public. You know, because I said, well, I'm calling about Dr. Millicent Black, and I said, now, a member of our team is being reported. Troy Potts laughed me in the face over the telephone, and he said, what, Millicent? And I thought, you little jackass, do not use her first name as if she was, your friend or your pal, when I'm reporting horrific crime. So I think, I am now not dealing with Potts and Captain Potts anymore. The only time I'm going to even, do anything is to have them removed from office and have them locked up for life because they are criminals. And this is not an individual case because I have said from the beginning, we're dealing with deep capture where criminals have actively moved into the system. So, Karen already confirmed that NSA went out of their way, or NSA security, to recruit people with prior convictions. And I think the one bit that we haven't said is that this is part of a global program. It's not just the, off-the-cuff actions of individuals. This is actually a wider program. Sorry, I still get buzzing on the microphone. To say one more thing, which is basically the fact that there are criminals in office and in high office has also been confirmed by Bill Binney. And in the plenary, and I think it was in New York, I should pull it up. He says the following sentence. I know I'm quoting from memory, but I think the essence is true. He said, I worked with those people and they are all criminals, referring to the people running NSA and these places, And he uses his words carefully. And everything I have seen confirms exactly that these people, like Michael Hayden and like Comey, right, and all these people are actually full-blooded criminals. They're not intelligence agents. They're not public servants. They are criminals. They always were to be, And that's basically how they have been treated. Have to be treated. They are criminals that managed to wheedle their way into high office, but they're criminals nonetheless. And I think Chief Potts falls exactly into the category. The people running NSA security are criminals. The people running NSA are criminals, and Chief Potts is also a criminal, and he's not the only one. And
every FBI agent who hasn't responded, is behaving in a criminal fashion. And actually, I think we have to look at the FBI very closely because it's the FBI and DHS who are tasked with domestic law enforcement and investigation into domestic crime, right? Homeland Security and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Primarily, we know that the CIA has a domestic component, and it has come out and stated that it's engaging in domestic spying, and new laws apparently permit the CIA to engage in domestic spying. So perhaps we should actually say the FBI and CIA are working hand in hand to unlawfully spy on, surveil, track, and assault civilians with directed energy weapons. But those agencies that are supposedly tasked with the security of the homeland, the homeland, the Nazi word, the homeland, are in particular the agencies, I think, that we should subject to intensified scrutiny, such as the FBI, the DHS, and the domestic arm of the CIA.
Very good point.
Well, the DHS, the FBI, the Fusion Center, they're basically engaged in a war on Americans. The domestic terrorist unit at the Fusion Centers basically is filled out with people who are committing domestic terrorism. They are the ones who go to the neighborhoods and hold the meetings and teach people how to kill innocent other people for monetary gain. And I will tell you, when this first started happening to me in Tallahassee, I called up the Tallahassee FBI. I identified myself, Karen Stewart, retired National Security Agency intelligence analyst. I have something to tell you about domestic terrorists in Tallahassee, and I was hung up on. All right, this is the agency that puts up billboards all over town that says, see something, say something. But I could not get more than my identity out to these people before they hung up on me. They are entirely complicit, entirely. I brought a report that I had written to the Fusion Center in Tallahassee, Florida, to hand to Mr. Kennedy and Annie White of the Domestic Terrorism Unit at the Fusion Center, identified myself, and they refused to take the written report. These people are entirely complicit, and frankly, they're running it on a local level. So going to the FBI is like asking the mafia for help, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? I think the other thing that we will keep spotting. So actually, it was I think after the war that the Department of War was renamed the Department of Defense, and then they continued to stage war. So this is, I think, cartel signaling. It's Illuminati or Freemason doubles. So when I hear things like domestic terror unit, they are the domestic terror unit. They do what it says on this tin. They're committing domestic terror. They're the unit to commit domestic terror, and that's what they do. By the way,
precisely.
I made a very good point, that it's the domestic intel that, we should look at, but also the supposedly foreign intel that has now developed a domestic branch officially. And actually, the NSA falls under that as well, because when they, are surveying and spying on Americans within America with all those bugged nodes, telephone exchanges that Bill Binney has highlighted, the many inside the US, they have become a domestic intelligence unit. So they are spying 100% on Americans. And I have to count exactly, but the domestic tap nodes are, I think, just as numerous, if not more numerous, than any nodes going outside. So I think
and we should
also responsible for, territorial domestic, U.S. domestic terror acts.
Absolutely. And on that note, remember that the NSA has set out this elaborate program of surveillance using those FISA letters and the national security letters, just on the grounds that people who are suspect terrorists based on correspondence with foreigners might indicate that there is some foreign terrorism connection. You see, had that's been rolled out, the whole NSA, the false origin national security letter, the FISA court warrants that are, handed out like ice water. So all of those things involve the NSA, implicate the NSA just as much as they implicate the FBI, because they're working together. They seem to be working together because we're talking about informants. The FBI has apparently 15,000 informants, okay, in the civilian population. Who are these informants? Are they the local Yale's, what is it called, Yale Skull and Bonesters? Are they the local secret society Masonics who are working with the local law enforcement to just tip them off when they run across somebody at a school board meeting they don't like? You know? Or somebody in a hospital? Is an informant one of the medical technicians who informs the local law enforcement and the fusion center when they run across some nurse or doctor or patient they don't like? You know?
Well, they're reporting
So
false
they all connect.
terrorists. They're reporting fake terrorists to these people to induce them to become criminals. How does that make any sense? Yet these people are falling for it. We have this very bad person over here, Joe Smith. We have this very bad person over here. We cannot possibly prosecute him using the law because he's too clever. There's no evidence that he's a bad person. Okay. So what we need you to do is commit crimes against him in order to punish him extrajudicially for crimes we can't touch him for because we can't prove that he's done them. How does that make any sense to anybody?
It doesn't, but you see how clever they are and how stupid. They don't tell these other people, you're committing crimes against this person. They say, we need your help in an investigation. We are investigating this person. This person is under investigation. These are the stupid terms with which they are enticing neighbors. They are enticing people in local retail. I mean, if you go to a restaurant, I think the restaurant owner is co-opted in this fashion. And I'll tell you a little story shortly about a restaurant I went to recently. So the restaurant owner is co-opted into tracking, GPS tracking with cell phones and directing energy, possibly with pulse weapons or with concealed in a cell phone-like device or with just microwave signals sent through their cell phones. Can cell phones be used as microwave weapons? Should ask Catherine that.
Yeah, some of this I'm not sure of, but it's insane. I mean, if I were a judge and I had these people come before me and they said, oh, we were told this person just was a national security threat and they didn't have enough evidence, so we were supposed to attack them. And I would say, have you ever heard of the Constitution? And where did you get your law degree? You're going to jail.
And what about making a person a statewide person that everyone gets to evaluate, that everyone gets to surveil?
It's voyeurism and it's against the law. I know, it's obscene. It's absolutely obscene.
Yes.
Yeah.
Making you into the Truman Show.
Here who said that there were classes being held on how to surveil me on the computer, on the internet.
Sorry,
it's sick.
Again,
it's sick.
One of the other
kinds of things.
Oh, sorry. This is sorry. Just a sec, because it's so important. I just couldn't hear it. Who said that to you? That there are classes being held?
One of the other person who is also a target and has been a target since I've been in this program. Because you see, initially, I understand that people were told that this was being done to quote unquote save me. But 10 years later, it came out that it actually was not to save me, but actually I was being used to set this person up for his own business. And if anyone told on him, they would be murdered. Or he could cause them to be arrested and sent to prison.
So that's random.
Same behavior modification technology.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
I had someone tell me in my face that that they could hear everything I say. You know when that was? 2003, 15 years ago. I've had people tell me what color underwear I wore. How do they know that? I live alone. Do you see the level of surveillance, the level of privacy invasion that I've been forced into? But then so has everyone else. And that's why they're afraid to talk, because they know they have chips in them also that allows them to have the same level of of privacy invasion, because it's you don't call it surveillance when it's like that. Surveillance, I would think, would watch the comings and goings, but
Right.
who cares what happens to me in my bedroom or my bathroom?
Yeah.
This is surveillance abuse, Millicent. Absolutely. And I'm so glad you're speaking out about it, because this is one of the major facets of surveillance abuse. The extreme voyeurism that is involved, because these guys have broken into people's houses. And once again, we have to ask, who did it? Is it the FBI, the CIA, or DHS? Is it somebody engaging in clandestine behavior? Who behaves in clandestine fashion? Which agency trains their people in clandestine activities to cameras, micro cameras in people's bathrooms and people's bedrooms, and engage in nano and micro surveillance?
And people's eyes. Actually, you know what? I think even though the term surveillance abuse is 100% correct, I think even that is misleading and too soft. What this is a Holocaust program. We are basically the modern Jews, and we've got these Nazi guards who can basically masturbate. And the entire mafia service that has planted the mafiosi in high office, the only thing that they do is reward their agents with money and with access to freakish sex. Okay? I think this is the truth. Because there's nothing that any police service needs to know about us women, because we have never committed ever any crime. And a woman living on their own, like Millicent, who's got no connections and is a pastor, for crying out loud, it should never be on the FBI's list. The fact that she has, like me, chips in her genital region, and like all the other women we know, means that the FBI is not the FBI, it is a mafia. The FBI is the mafia, just like actually the Verfassungsschutz in Germany. By the way, talking about fraudulent or double speak names, it's Verfassungsschutz in German, that's the name of domestic intel, and it translates to constitutional protection. The key is Germany doesn't have a constitution. They only have what's called basic law, Grundgesetz, and this is what the Allies imposed on Germany. In terms of international law, it doesn't even qualify as even a wannabe constitution because it's foreignly imposed. So Germany is famous for not having a constitution. So when you make a domestic intelligence unit that calls itself constitution protection, they are protecting something that doesn't exist. Okay, it's actually in their logo, it's in their name. Ergo, you shouldn't be surprised when they run around like a Nazi organization. And that's exactly what they do. The head of Verfassungsschutz, the one before last, stepped down, but it was revealed. Oh, by the way, I do get feedback again. This is really loud here. I'm not sure if I think someone's microphone is causing feedback. But you know what's so important is that Aaron's microphone.
Is it?
Sorry, Karen, I'm so sorry. I don't want to hog the microphone. It's just really loud on mine. But what is so important to realize for us now, because we now need to move, is that to even call these institutions, intelligence units or police outfits is completely wrong, because they are the mob. The FBI is the mob, okay? The mob has always had a goal to infiltrate the FBI, and now they did completely. They have taken over completely. So these so-called special agents who you see, like this woman and this guy who I showed you, running FBI Memphis and FBI Knoxville, the only thing you need is the evidence we already got on them, that they are not just not willing to act in Millicent's case, they hung up on me too, right? Just like the people down in Tallahassee hung up on Karen, FBI, both Memphis and Knoxville hung up on me, not once. Both cases I had to call back 3 times, and now I think after a year I can make these audio recordings public, but they are the mob. So it's good that these guys have their mugshots up on the website, because we can pull them straight into our court cases and say, these are the people who are the criminals. They need to be arrested. Those special agents who you see, they are mobsters, okay? They're running the mob. And I think the fact that we report large scale, child trafficking to them, which is also what's, looks like happening at Mount Pleasant School, and they don't care, it means that they are running the child trafficking. They know. We're not telling them anything new because they are running it. So wonderful. All we need to do is download all the images of these FBI people and go straight to court and say, these are the mobsters. Actually, if you're looking for the mob, you just have to go to the FBI field office and, you know, look at the mugshot. That's them. So now in the case of Millicent, we've identified 4 mobsters: Chief Potts, Troy Potts, that's captain of detectives, Special Agents Watsit, you know, in Knoxville and Memphis. That's 4 mobsters already right there. And we need to take them now to court. Okay, this is basically how we have to think now. Stop thinking about surveillance or, you know, oh, is it justified or not? It's not justified. The fact that they are doing it means that they are criminals. It's an organized crime outfit. Also, Michael Hayden. Michael Hayden, right, is already certified criminal by Bill Binney, the technical director of the NSA. That means a lot. When this guy comes out and says, you know what, I've worked with these people, they are criminals, I have never heard him talk flippantly, ever. Okay, this means they are criminals. And then we've got one woman who came forward and said that she was being stalked by Michael Hayden, right? We've got that on record. And that means Michael Hayden is a criminal, and he's also involved in the sex trafficking. And it makes perfect sense because all these people who they used to populate these government institutions get cash back. They get cash back in the form of money, you know, more or less traceless. But then also they get cash back in the form of sex, voyeurism, and this kind of perviness, right? And that's basically the mafia's main business. The mafia works in killing and fucking, okay? That's mafia staple business. So when the mafia pays somebody, they pay them money, they kill people for them, or, you know, it's sex. And I think it's under this view, as disgusting as it sounds. I'm sorry, guys, I hate talking about this stuff. It's not my field, really. But this is the reality. You know, all of these people who show up with any sort of sex freakishness or have a body count, you know, or seem to not act in the way of their office, all of these are indications that they are agents of the mafia. They are agents of this organized crime network. So Michael Hayden is an agent of this organized crime network for sure. We've got 2 hits. One, some person high up called him a criminal. We've got a totally unrelated victim who actually said he stalked her. So that's my, and then third hit is that he's not doing anything to stop this criminality. Why? These 3 hits, independent of each other, prove that Michael Hayden is a criminal. He works for the mafia. End of story. With that, the only path for him is court cases and death penalty. That's, you know, his trajectory. And one can play exactly the same game with Comey as well. He was confirmed a criminal. He's not acting the way of his office. His FBI agents seem to be, funnily enough, behaving like mobsters. Ergo, Comey was running the mob, right? The only trajectory for him is also the death penalty under the same thing. And this is how we have to talk, right? Now we spent 1 year identifying these people. Now it's like, okay, these are criminals. Who is going down now? You know? And as soon as a judge actually lets these guys go, it means that the judge is a criminal as well. You know? And end of story. And
absolutely right. Absolutely right. I'm so glad you spelled it out. You did that brilliantly, Catherine. Kudos to you for spelling it out. They are the mafia. They are running a domestic terrorism operation in our country, in the USA. And, you know, their counterparts in every other country is doing the same. In Canada, Mexico, everywhere, you know, Belgium, France, Germany, Switzerland, etc. These are supposedly domestic intelligence agencies, supposedly domestic law enforcement, supposedly domestic security agencies that are doing nothing, that are engaging in nothing but domestic terror. When you use stealth radiation weapons on a population, or even on one small portion of the population, and I really think that this is happening in concentric layers, we are being hit the most. But there are layers around us who are being hit as well. I do think everybody, the entire populace, is being hit. Everybody listen up. If you're not being hit currently, you need to check this out. You need to research this. Stealth radiation weapons, the electronic control grid, cell towers, satellites, portable non-lethal weapons, through-wall surveillance radar, and so on. You know, sonic weapons, microwave weapons, millimeter wave weapons, 5G coming down the pike. people's cell phones disguised, microwave weapons disguised as cell phones, etc. So because everybody is being hit, because these very agencies and very groups that are supposed to protect us as a civilian populace are engaging along with utility companies, people like Comcast, Xfinity, National Grid, Verizon, they are all culpable because they are putting the stuff up on the poles. They're helping put the cameras on the poles, and they're helping put, the little boxes with the little weapons on the poles. They're putting the sensors in the lights, etc. So utility corporations are most definitely culpable, and should be named and shamed and publicly out, working in tandem with local law. They're working in tandem with city councils, with mayors, with the local fusion centers, with the chief of police at the local fusion center. All of these people are actually working to direct energy on the populace, and to also do the kinds of mind tech experiments that Millicent was describing earlier on our children in our public schools. So there are 2 points I wanted to actually address. One was something that Millicent was talking about. I'll get back to it in a minute. I'm trying to figure out which one it was exactly. But the thing that Catherine mentioned about this is a mafia operation, and this is a holocaust that's been unleashed on the entire populace, within every country and within the whole world. Yes, it is a holocaust. It is an absolute holocaust. It is being covered up. And you see, the thing to ask is, and the thing to be very aware of, even as we speak about naming who's doing it, is to be aware that how they are doing it is by telling lies. And who do they tell lies about? They're telling lies about you and me. They're telling lies about you and me in our neighborhood and everywhere we go. If you go to a library, if you go to a retail store to buy something, if you go to a CVS, just to pick up hair coloring or whatever, sugar at the grocery store, if you go to a restaurant to have dinner with, your husband or anyone, if you go to the swimming pool with your daughter to take her to a swim practice, as I do frequently, people are being notified ahead of my coming, that I have a big scarlet letter on my back. I'm somebody to watch out for. And you are too. When I say you, I just mean everybody who's targeted. Before you go somewhere, there's, a train of notification that precedes you. And people know. The guy at the counter, smiles at you and acts like nothing is going on, but they are tracking you. They are sending information to the local law enforcement guys. They're sending info about you. Some people are taking photographs of you and sending them, and actually apparently earning $100, as Karen found out, and sending it to the local fusion center because Infrared or whoever is paying them. That's the FBI is paying them for a photograph. So,
Karen, is that true? Is that this gang stalking app? Oops, your microphone, sorry, you switched it off for me.
Well, I had approached one of the people who saw me, his eyes lit up like, oh boy. And I was in a grocery store, and he grabbed his phone, fumbled for his phone and then started, punching in something, checked his watch and looked over at me and was punching in something and smiling to himself. And I went over to him and I said, so what do you think about the Department of Homeland Security scam about putting people on the watch list who are innocent people? And he just kind of looked at me kind of funny. And I said, yeah, and some of them are paid to basically not only stalk and harass them, but a second set of people are paid to tell DHS wherever they see them in town. Like if they see them in the grocery store at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, then they text in, their whereabouts. And the guy's smiling because he knows I know. And I said, so, what do you think people think about that? Do they care if those people are innocent? And he smiled kind of slyly and said, no, it's money. They don't care if that person's innocent or guilty of anything. And I said, really? How much money? He said, $100 a text, $100 a call in. And I said, really, $100 per sighting? And he said, yes. And at that point, he didn't want to say anymore. He said, I don't want to say anymore. And I said, okay, I appreciate the information you've given me. But Yeah, I
Yes,
mean, the
you see,
money spent is immense. You know, so I would imagine your location, or even if they send in a picture, anything they send them, they're getting $100 on their account.
On this note, I would like to say something. I walked down to people can now know where they know where I live. So if you go to Google Maps, you can see that there's a co-op literally something like 200 meters from my home. So I walked down there and I had horrific stalking. And then when I see one person, I know that it's always a cloud of them. So I'm trying to pick up, several. And one day I got fed up. So I made a little video about, okay, so this woman is here, she's acting strange. And always when you're being stalked, know that you are surrounded 360. So if you have one person in front of you, look behind you because there's the next, and there will be other axes as well. I looked across and I thought, who's going to be the stalk on the other side? And I filmed this. And eventually, when one person changes a post, I call it the change of guards, that position on that side of you will be replaced by somebody else. So this old guy went into the shop and I said, I wonder who his replacement's going to be. And I saw a young chap, literally like 16, appear really far. And it was quite dark. And he was just walking down, but he was holding his phone. And because it was dark, the idiot didn't realize that his phone is going to turn on the flash permanently because it's dark. So I get this guy who's walking with his phone towards me, and the flash at the front lights up and is, when you're filming, the light stays on. It's not just a flash. And he's clearly filming something. I just thought, what an idiot. But anyway, he's filming me, so I knew, okay, that guy filmed me. And I heard about this pace walking, So I went after him into the shop. I grabbed him and I said, excuse me, did you just take a photograph of me? And he said, no, I didn't. I said, can I see your phone? Because you did. And because he was so young and he got really intimidated, he was like, oh, okay. So, he literally, responded to my command. And then he brought up his images. And of course, sure enough, the last images of me standing in front of the grocery store on my own. And I said, I want you to delete this image straight away. I basically was a judgment call. Am I going to go after signals? I don't think so. But I have this entire thing recorded. And of course, as I'm talking and confronting this guy, they stingrayed my phone and cut it off. So the last bit, when I actually say, look, that's me, right? Delete it, that was cut off. But I've got the entire thing running up to this. And you can see this entire stalking operation. So this means, this young chap, this means the NDB, the Nachrichtendienst des Bundes, Swiss Intel, is recruiting children, basically teenagers and underage people, for this Holocaust.
Very important point. Yes, I've noticed that too. And as you guys know, I think I may have mentioned it earlier, I accosted a guy at the YMCA as well who appeared to be taking a photograph of me. But unlike in your case, Catherine, he denied it and he said, no, he wasn't taking a photograph of me. He was kind of looking up at me and then looking at his phone and then looking up at me. I think he wasn't taking a photograph so much as ascertaining that someone who had sent a photograph to him, he was figuring out that was indeed me. He was confirming that my face matched the face that he was looking at. And he denied that he was doing this utterly, and he refused to take my business card, which was the press of investigating military and neurobio directed energy weapons and neurobio weapons. He looked at it and he said, no, I don't need it, thank you. Because clearly, I think he was a little bit older than perhaps the guy that you accosted, because he just didn't want to have anything to do with me, but he was clearly aware that what he was doing was surreptitious, was covert, was possibly illegal, which in his mind, we know it's illegal. We know that this is being run as a clandestine operation. And to come back to the terms that you were using, yes, I'm so glad you spelled it out. We are talking about the FBI becoming mafia. By the way, I'm hearing a buzzing now, if anybody can close a mic. So, we're talking about the FBI acting as mafia. We're talking about the DHS acting as mafia. We're talking about the CIA acting as mafia. These guys are running a mafia operation. Everybody knows it. This is a domestic terror operation. We are the victims, So we are the victims of surveillance crime. And the reason I come back to the words surveillance abuse and surveillance crime is because these are the words that are being used by mainstream media still. Surveillance is still being used. And when these guys the CIA guys or the FBI guys, whether it's Comey or Pompeo or whoever, they talk about the need, they get in front of cameras, they talk to the mainstream media, and they talk about surveillance, the need for surveillance, greater surveillance, the need to, keep expanding the horrific laws, keep, protecting national security. They use those terms. Those are the little buzzwords they're using. This is the language that they're putting across and that's being reported in the mainstream press. And so this is why I take those words and I say, no, this is surveillance abuse. And that's really the first step. The next step is saying what you were saying, precisely what you were saying, Catherine. It's not just surveillance abuse. This is domestic terror. This is human trafficking. This is a holocaust. This is the third, I guess the second holocaust since the, Second World War. This is the Third World War. This is being carried out on domestic soil. And it's being carried out by these agencies who have the weapons and the military. The weapons. Who else has the weapons? I think there's a whole coterie of people who would like to tell me that it's a bunch of private people. It's a bunch of people who've stolen the weapons. And they are using weapons, just local gangsters, local thugs, local criminals who've gotten the weapons and they're running this massive, structured, global, worldwide operation. I can't believe that. It seems to me this is completely organized. It's organized in the domestic terror units by the guys who are supposedly engaging in counterterrorism and supposedly taking care of us. And as I was saying, the only way they're able to do it is by telling big, fat lies to everybody. They are lying. And actually, this connects with the thought that Millicent had shared earlier, the thing about finding out that a whole group of people was getting lessons on a computer, and getting training on how to assault her. And we know that Sherry has recently been reporting a great deal about this as well, because she's overheard people, she's recorded people speaking like this in her vicinity within earshot, pretty much saying things like, oh, it's therapy. She should feel that we are helping her because we are helping her. She's got a computer attached to her, things like that. So, and this was, as we know, we're on an email list with her and she's been exchanging information. And one of the things I wrote back recently was that this is bombshell disclosure, because what it tells us is the people around targets are being told massive lies. They are being told that each time they use a cell phone to direct a pulse of energy at somebody, or they use a cell phone to send GPS tracking info to somebody, they are engaging in therapy. That's the lie that they're being told, that they're helping this person's, that this is some kind of covert health and human service experiment, and they're helping this person's health. And perhaps, and this is the other aspect, right? Because we are living in a mental health psyop scenario over here. Perhaps also targets are being told, people around targets are being told that the targets are mentally unstable, that this is a community intervention, that there is no way that we can get this target, who is a real danger to the entire populace. We can't get her to take her medication. She refuses to, she's been diagnosed, but she's refusing to take her medication. This is the only way to give her her medication. So we are asking you to be part of it. So there's all sorts of stuff going on. And is also the possibility of neurobio behavior modification, scenarios, because there are those kinds of projects underway too. Are people being told that this person is dangerously delusional, is in the possession of dangerous delusions, and the only way to begin to convert her is through neurobio behavior modification, which we are asking you to help in. So we are asking you to wear, red hats and blue shoes in her vicinity, and dance on your left leg for her, which classic gang stalking that people are reporting. And
hold on, Romola, I'm actually having to dance on my left leg because I can't put my right one down.
Sorry, Millicent, we're not accusing you of gang stalking anybody. You know exactly what I mean. That's a good laugh, though. So, you know what I mean. I just pulled these metaphors out of thin air, but
But it begs the
my
question,
point
how
is,
very stupid is the American population or the Swiss population or whoever? We're going to be giving this person therapy. They don't want it. but we're going to make them have it anyway. And we're going to engage people around them whose business it is not to intrude upon their lives and do things to them. And oh, if they complain about being mutilated or hurt or burned, just ignore it. Just ignore it, because you're doing them good. You know, they come in and say that they've gotten bruises or burns, or you've killed their cat over the weekend. Just ignore it. We're doing them good. What kind of moron believes that?
And the United Nations Human Rights Committee calls that torture. They call that torture. Let me just say something to what Catherine has said about the FBI. What's happening to me seems to be a personal vendetta by a person trained in counterterrorism and war on terror. I did get the words in 2003. We had to lie to get it started, and we lied to keep it going. If people will believe one lie, they will believe all the others. But they also said this is entertainment and sensationalism, and also that the boys have new toys, and they like the hunt better than the catch. Now, the other significant thing is Randall Webster was identified, one by a person from the office of the president of AT&T, who told me he is destroying your life. A U.S. Marshal in Nashville, Tennessee, said he asked questions at my request. He came back to me and said he just wants to control y'all. Now, these people were talking specifically about Randall Webster. A federal investigator with the Census Bureau told me he does not have clearance to do this to you. So you see, these were people on a federal level talking specifically about Randall Webster, who might have been the voice that said to me, the boys have new toys and they like the hunt better than the catch. We had to lie to get it going, and we lie to keep it going. If people will believe one lie, they'll believe all of them.
Exactly, and I'm so glad you brought this up at just this moment, Millicent. And we've reported some of this in that previous article, and hopefully I'm hoping to cover the follow-up and cover the interview that Catherine did with you shortly in my classified research cover series, because literally what I'm trying to find out is, openly, in public, in journalism, is classified research, the label of classified research, being used as a cover to conceal crime against the American populace, and this is something that we have spoken about before. I think it's time to start writing about it and start reporting people's experiences within that rubric, within that understanding that a lot of this is classified technology. A lot of this is being hidden as classified research and classified experiments. And this is why it's not in common knowledge. And this is why mainstream media won't touch it, because they say, oh, we don't have the documents, and because there's national security labels all, written, tacked on all around it. So it's time to expose that, because it comes down to the lie. There are lies involved. Nobody could be hit the way we are. Nobody could be hit like this with directed energy weapons in your own neighborhood, in your own house, with the neighbors knowing, if the neighbors weren't co-opted and weren't colluding. And how do you co-opt and collude the neighbors, get the neighbors to collude? How do you do that? You tell them lies. This person is under investigation. So let me tell you the restaurant story before I stop talking. The restaurant story.
Just very, very briefly.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to interject one thing about Millicent case, and then I really would like to hear the restaurant story, because I think I've got something, to back that up. But the one thing I do not agree with is that it is not just a personal vendetta of somebody, because, and this is basically where we have to open up the case. And of course, federal people are going to say, oh, well, he doesn't have clearance, because they are lying. These are federal programs. These are not just federal programs. These are international programs. Randall Webster has been given Millicent as a slave, but the amount of equipment, there's a satellite involved, dedicated, satellite links, equipment, a mass of body chips, people who have done the operation, people have done heart surgery on Millicent in her own home, as far as I know. Now, this is not the personal vendetta of one person. A veteran from the Air Force cannot, assemble a medical team to do heart surgery, right? He doesn't actually get his hands on this. He doesn't get the satellite link, and he can't keep it up for, nigh on 30 years with repeated reports from the FBI without literally the full support of the FBI, of the NSA, who, by the way, run and, maintain all the frickin' satellites because they've got an entire department for that. One cannot have a satellite above the US without the NSA knowing. So one certainly can't communicate with a satellite without the NSA knowing, because, hey, that would be a big deal. So no, this is not a personal vendetta. Millicent is part of the Columbia branch of a global Holocaust program. But the way it works is that they get totally degenerates. I think Randall Webster was born a psychopath. But then within the Air Force, they have got programs, sodomy programs really, where they totally break down these people and damage them even more. So Randall Webster, he at some point said to you, Millicent, you should become his personal therapist. Well, I can tell him in 5 minutes what's wrong with him. He was basically the bitch boy, the gimp boy of some senior white Air Force officers who probably took him up the rear side, as often as they wanted, because there aren't any black guys running this at the top because, they were considered slaves, and these people are Nazis. So that's what's wrong with Randall Webster. But he's part of a massive program. And in fact, Kay Griggs reported about young men being taken as sodomy slaves by, military personnel in the US. This is a program that has run like forever. I think this is how the military run, And
absolutely. And don't they MK Ultra everybody who sort of enters the ranks just in order to, to gain their compliance and pliability?
Exactly. And you know what? I think we should open it up, and instead of taking it as a personal case, I think that's a cover. I think, if anything, that's a cover so that all these federal people who are all involved, including the NSA, can say, oh, gosh, no, that was just some lone idiot having a personal vendetta.
Exactly. That's how they wriggle out of everything, you see. And even this line that Millicent heard, he doesn't have clearance to do that to you. Does that imply that perhaps somebody with the right clearance could just go about with radiation weapons and, a satellite and BCI chips and start tormenting and enslaving women in Tennessee or anywhere else for that matter, And of course, Catherine, absolutely, you are spot on, absolutely, dead on. This is not the work of one person. Randy Webster is the front. He's the front man for a huge mafia operation, a huge domestic terror operation, which is being run by a huge infrastructure, of military and intelligence jerks. Okay, who are doing this to you. And if people don't know Millicent's story, please go and read the article at my website, Electronic Slavery, which spells it out and has a whole bunch of disclosure that Millicent is reporting. Also, read the page that Catherine has put up for Millicent. I know it's under revision currently, but there's a lot of disclosure there as well. There's a lot of information, a lot of reportage on Millicent's particular story. Millicent's story is actually emblematic of what is happening to many people. It may have started with a personal vendetta, but the fact that this guy got a hold of this, and this is what I wanted to mention to you as well, Catherine, a $3 million contract. The guy got a $3 million contract. With who? Who did he sign that contract with? Which agency, which dark agency did he get this contract with? Was it the NGA, the NSA, the CIA? I'd really like to know, because he got a contract. He got money, and he's been telling her so many times in so many ways that he got money to do what he's doing to her, that she's made him a lot of money
from torturing her. He brags about it. Yes, follow the money.
Yeah,
it tells you who put him up to it and who's protecting him.
Exactly. And I think this is how all your cases are connected. Actually, you know what? One of the things that we now discover after years, that all of our cases are connected. So I think because the NSA has to be involved in Millicent's case, because, Randall Webster bragged about the satellite link and so on, and NSA has got an entire dedicated, branch for this. I think this is how NSA is also running the torture of Millicent and is also running yours, Karen. This is how you two are connected. Now, Ramola, you're also in this, not least also because after you made Millicent's case public, you had this Tennessee number plate outside your home. And then we all saw how for the weeks after that, your internet was sabotaged in identical ways, even with the color, the changing of the color as Millicent, absolutely one-to-one identical. So certainly the same hacking tools have been used in exactly the same manner. And there are many, many other parallels. Now, I tie into this entire thing through the fact that Dr. Ronnie Kilder revealed that the electromagnetic torture and assault system in Europe is also being run by NSA and GCHQ. So this Anglo-American mafia that is running also all the other intelligence agencies is, all integrated. So my torture is as much related to Admiral Rogers as Karen's is. So in other words, we have a claim against him.
Dr. Kilder also reports the NATO countries as being primary in this electromagnetic torture, system that's been set up all across Europe and America.
Yeah, and oops. Yes, that guy. Actually, click on Karen's screen. It's big. Hang on, make Karen's camera the main here.
That's really good. So that's the guy. That's a great story. Karen caught this guy early one morning, while driving about, and while she was being hit with directed energy, and she actually walked up to him, well shrouded in a hoodie, I think, and took a picture of him. And he wasn't expecting it, as we can see from that photograph.
Karen, your microphone is off. Sorry, I always make you switch.
I don't know why mine's problematic, but obviously it is. Now, well, this took place in 2009 when NSA had decided to stalk and harass me because my psychological evaluations would not allow them to fire me for being psychologically unfit because I passed 20 plus years of psychological evaluations. They had no evidence of any type of problem. So they decided to create the facade upon which to fire me, which was to stalk and harass me. Well, they were doing that, and they got into the neighborhood and had people there do it. And so early one morning, about 4 or 5-ish, I went on what I called a walkabout, and I put on a hoodie to make myself look like some of their scumbags. And I was walking when this guy came down a street and turned onto the main street at about 5. I said, that's kind of unusual. So I waved at him. And of course, I have this big hoodie. You can't see my face. You can see nothing but a huge hoodie. And the guy pulls over and rolls down the window, which is incredibly dangerous if you don't know who the person is. So I'm thinking he assumes that I'm one of his stalkers. So I walk up to him, and I've got my camera in my left hand, and he doesn't see it. And I throw the hoodie back, and he just goes, uh-oh, and then I said, oh, I'm part of the Neighborhood Watch, and I just wanted to bring your attention to something over here. And as he's looking, I take his picture with the left hand as I'm directing him with the right. And so he absolutely panicked. And I said, thank you very much. And I started to walk away. And the guy grabbed his phone, and he sat there for like 15 minutes just texting like, oh, crap, I'm caught. What am I going to do? And so I'm just watching him, and I wave and walk away. So he is an NSA executive, or he was in 2009, and he's intricately involved in stalking harassment. And I don't know his name, but if anybody does, I would love for you to identify him for a lawsuit. Thank you.
You know what, Karen, I would like to, I'm so glad that you actually bring this up. So an actual NSA executive, involved in the stalking and harassment on the ground level. I would like to finally now, after a year, I maybe have the courage. So I would like to back up everything that you say. By the way, as soon as you stop talking, the buzzing again with your microphone.
Good grief.
I would like to, because I think it's a telltale sign. Michael Hayden involved in stalking, this senior NSA executive involved in stalking on the ground level. And I think this is what Michael Hayden, that's him, that's him, exactly that guy. But I think what the mafia is doing is that it's demanding of its agents and officers that they keep not just creating a control file, they keep refreshing their control file. And I suspect this is what happened to Scalia when he went to that dodgy farm. He was actually, I suspect, there to renew his control file when he died. My personal suspicion. But I can back everything up that you said, Karen, that Sherry has said, and other people, about high-profile people stalking them, because I was stalked by a man who's now a Supreme Court judge. And it took me a year to actually have the courage to actually say that, but I now would like to say that publicly, because that goes really, really deep down the rabbit hole. And I would like to share my screen here, and I would like to now make public that I was stalked by Jonathan Sumption, who at the time, when very first time I met him consciously, he was the lawyer for Abramovich. Okay, so he was the lawyer at the Supreme Court, at the normal High Court case that I attended in 2011. But I think this goes much, much deeper than that. And I think by the time I turned up at the High Court case, by the way, I think I might have been led there by radio hypnosis to pick that case in particular, because there are other things. But anyway, I met him there. He was already trying to get my attention and get close to me during the court hearing. He was trying to brush past me as I was walking back from the court hearing back to the tube station, but he would turn up and actually stalk me in Oxford all throughout 2012 when I was still at St. John's College. He would turn up repeatedly, and in the end he would turn up in Munich years later, something like 50 meters from my home. Okay. So I have seen him many times. I have identified him clearly. And also I have taken a photograph of him when he was stalking me. So Jonathan Sumption, now what's the deal with Jonathan Sumption? Well, if you go to these, he is all over the news, by the way. I mean, you can already tell he's a cartel boy just by how the press is basically just worshipping him. He is called the guy who has a brain the size of a planet. Okay, some high-flying barrister. Well, I think one has to carefully distinguish between his brains and the power of this international global crime cartel that seems to be propelling him. But this man was instrumental in many, many places. So when I met him, he was just, in inverted commas, just the barrister for Abramovich. But after, already during the court case, he took up his post as a Supreme Court judge, okay? So in January of 2012, this guy became a judge of the UK Supreme Court, and you can find him if you go to supremecourt.uk. Under biographies of the justices, you can find Jonathan Sumption. Then he became Lord Sumption here, all right? Now, I have been trying to figure out what the hell this connection is with Jonathan Sumption and where the stalking came from, even before I knew about this global stalking program. Now, the one thing that, at the time, I didn't know I was chipped when all this happened. And now bit by bit, I've figured out that I'm chipped, and I've been in this program for much, much longer, certainly since the year 2000, ever since I went up to Oxford. I have been in this MI5/MI6 program. But the thing about this judge here is that what's so unusual, not just the fact that the Guardian and the Times are worshipping him and saying, oh, he's the cleverest man of Britain. Oh, ha, ha, ha. Yeah, the cleverest man in Britain. Not just that, he's also involved in very high profile cases. Okay. And most notably, when he became a Supreme Court judge, a massive scandal broke loose. And that's because he leapfrogged absolutely everybody in the judiciary who was in line to be the next Supreme Court judge. Because in England, he was never a judge. He went from being a barrister to becoming a Supreme Court judge. And in the entire history of the Supreme Court, there's only one example of that, I think in the 1940s. All right. So big question mark. The thing you have to ask is, what is it about Jonathan Sumption that endeared him so much to the establishment that he leapfrogged so many other able men? Is it just his brilliance, just his mind? And my gut feeling answer was, oh, no. I don't think so, because the statistical probability of somebody being such a freaking genius is very small, and there are much other, reasons behind that. Now, he flagged up several times. The very first time I heard about his name was actually in 2009, And that was in something that all the British people probably know about. It's called the bank charges case. So in the UK, the banks have been charging overdraft fees and punitive damages that were horrific. You went overdrawn by 50 pence and you were charged £50 penalty. So at some point they were taken to court, and that was called the famous bank charges case at the Supreme Court. And you can find that, I think is, hang on, I want to point people there because it's actually very important. It's going right to the heart of the mafia. If you go to supremecourt.uk, decided cases 2009, and then it was, hang on, I've got a mnemonic for that. Remember the 25th of November. Okay, 25th of November, Office of Fair Trading versus Abbey National PLC. I think you'll find that Jonathan Sumption is named here as one of the lawyers here, Jonathan Sumption, and he was representing the appellant Barclays Bank. Now, Jonathan Sumption was involved in that, and he basically protected the banks from going down the pan. Okay, we all know these big court cases are staged, okay, but he was basically the actor that was pulled in to help the banks get out of this. And that was big because if the banks had lost, they would have been, you know, liable for billions of pounds of damages because they've been basically asset stripping the British population by this means, by charging punitive damages that I thought in the first round, it was said that it's not even legal to do that. You know, only a government can charge you a penalty, not a private corporation. You know, like, oh, look at that's funny, you've got the spelling mistake in your email, we charge you £50. Can't do that. So people were saying that the making the argument that these punitive damages were totally out of proportion. Okay. Now, this is all important, people, because the financial side ties in. And basically, this man has been involved in the most, how to say, very, very cartel important cases. So number one, bank charges cases, he gets the banks out of the shit, basically. Other case he was involved in was the death of the Iraqi weapons inspector, Dr. David Kelly. Again, he got the governments out of the sticks. Again, very dodgy case, as far as I can make out. Dr. David Kelly was murdered by MI5. Okay, people demanded an autopsy and an actual, you know, coroner's report, and it was refused. Now that case also has a long tail, you know, a long tail to it because Dr. Stephen Frost, a court case I attended, Dr. Stephen Frost was the lead doctor who was lobbying for a proper medical investigation of the death of Dr. David Kelly. He became, as far as I can make out, a target later on for lobbying for that. So all of these things are related and tie into the same thing, which is the mafia hiring people, killing people, and then attacking everybody who actually, you know, has a problem with that. So, okay, again, Jonathan Sumption was, you know, helping the government to get out, and many, many other cases. But most crucially, because I thought, you know, if I make the assumption that he's actually a criminal working for the criminal cartel, how could I tell? Well, the criminal cartel typically wants some sort of, you know, pledge, something you do for them that they even take you on trust. So what could it have been? And that's when I chanced on child abuse in Jersey and Guernsey, the Channel Islands. Now, again, I said Lord Sumption was never a judge before in England, before he became a Supreme Court judge, which is highly unusual, but he was under a judge on the Court of Appeal in Jersey and Guernsey. So these are the little Channel Islands, and they are famous for two things. They are famous for being a tax haven, so illicit funds sloshed through Jersey and Guernsey like you wouldn't believe. And second of all, for a massive pedophile cover-up where children, it seems to be, it was said that they were murdered. So they were abused and then murdered, open brackets, probably in ritualistic sacrifice, perhaps. So that would make sense because people from mainland Britain could travel to the Channel Islands where, you know, they could, in peace and quiet, you know, ritually sacrifice children and thereby refresh their, you know, their control files. This could be one interpretation. But what is so telling, and this is where Sumption is involved again, is that one senator in Jersey is honest, and his guy is Stuart Sivry. Now, sorry, I want to show his name on Twitter because you should follow this guy because this man needs protection of the public as far as I can make out. So he is, you will find him on Twitter Stuart, and then Syvret. Okay, Stuart Sivray. He is a senator. Oops, sorry, let me stop sharing my screen. He's a senator on Jersey and Guernsey, and this is super important because he was fighting the pedophile rings. He was fighting for an investigation of the child abuse, and he was fighting the pedophile rings. Now, he was kicked out of office as a senator, and Sumption was called in as the Court of Appeal judge in Jersey, Jersey, when Sivray appealed against his sacking, and he said that was motivated by this huge cartel that is infesting Jersey. And Sivray openly talks about basically the entire leadership in Jersey being big criminals, big corrupt bastards. So Sumption gets called in, and I perked up. I was looking on public information about this, and I was reading Sivray's blog about this, and Sumption flagged up, not just because he gave right to the other side, which is a judge's right, of course, but because he treated Sivray with utter contempt, according to the blog report at the time that Stuart Sivray put up. He said Sumption was picking his nose, was staring out of the window, rolling his eyes, and doing absolutely everything he could with body language and acts to signal to Sivray that he just couldn't care less, and he was not actually respected and accepted as a case, right? Now, that was so big, and Stuart Sivray is not a guy, prone to fanciful lying. So I thought, oh, hang on, the protection of pedophile rings, does that seem to be a recurring theme, And given that these pedophile rings are so high value for the cartel, given that they seem to be killing, for the protection of that, well, I think that might be a big enough pledge. So anyway, this is how I, followed this. But Sumption flagged up absolutely everywhere in these high-profile cases. The murder of Dr. David Kelly, the bank charges case, Sivray's case in Jersey. It's like, oh God, what coincidence. Of course, a high-flying barrister would, deal with all sorts of cases, but there was certain irregularities with all of these cases where I thought, oh, it looks very much like the cartel has its hand in it. Now, I thought, okay, so that could be indication for this guy being a man of the cartel. Well, they are, a dime a dozen these days. What does it have to do with me and this entire MI6 stalking? And that's when reading his Wikipedia profile, Sumption's, to find out more, I read that his contemporary, so Sumption studied history at Magdalen College, Oxford. And his contemporaries also studying history at Magdalen College, Oxford, was Sir John Scarlett, who became head of MI6. So if I was looking for a way that a judge could find my private address in Munich, even though it didn't appear anywhere publicly, well, that could be a way. And also, every single time he turned up, it was accompanied with gang stalking and massive theater involving at least a dozen people every single time. So, these sort of crowds, he is a multimillionaire. He can afford it. It was said that out of the Abramovich case, he was paid something like, well, people say it's 30 million. He says it's more like 3 million. Well, the answer is somewhere in between. So this guy is super rich. Okay, he's not a billionaire, but he's a multimillionaire. So he has his ways to find out my private address, but I think he also has the protection of MI6. Okay, and that's the Scarlett-Sumption connection. Now, for those people who don't know, Oxford is run, there's no University of Oxford, there are only the 48 or so colleges. When you're an undergraduate at Oxford, you become a member of the colleges. It's a bit like the houses in Harry Potter, okay? So you become a member of those colleges. But because every subject, which would have something like 100 or 150 people per year, is spread over almost 50 colleges, you have only a handful of people per subject in a year. So if you're studying the same subject at the same college, right, at roughly the same time, you will know each other. You will probably be close friends because it would be a group between 2 to 8, maximum 15 people who would ever study that subject at a college. So we're not talking mass university here, okay? So when Sumption and Scarlett are studying both history at Magdalen College, I suspect in the same year, but even if they were 1 year above each other, they would be part of an elite group of maximum 8 people, okay? So amongst those 8 people, you pretty much know each other, okay? So I know absolutely everybody who was, during my time at Hartford College studying physics. I know them. And it's, I think it's the way of the establishment that you keep, the contacts. So I think my case is related to Jonathan Sumption, who was basically my Michael Hayden, who was stalking me. And as Ramola said to me, she noticed that the crossing of our paths and stalking visibly around the victim seems to be a recurring theme. A lot of victims say that. And I think it's part of, this is how they refresh their control file, by basically openly stalking in front of us and, going like, hello, it's me, hello, hello, hello. And you kind of reinforce this thing of, oh, I'm so powerful, you could never get at me. Second of all, you also create enough incriminating evidence that, you have a control file that's valid for the mafia. So this is my story, right? And basically, Jonathan Sumption not just stalked me. I think, Bob, at some point it felt like every second week he would turn up covertly, either drive by, in a car and wave at me, or just, walk past the street, or just like, disappear and stand behind me as I was, disappear into a shop, or stand behind somebody I was talking to and then, go away. And this just went on and on and on and on. When he turned up in Munich, that's when I thought, oh, I seem to be his personal stalking subject. So I think now that I've listened to many victim cases, I think the way it works is that, and this is now the parallel to Millicent, we are given as slave torture presents to certain individuals in the cartel. And they might, have the right to access us whenever they want to. As far as I know, he might be controlling my vaginal chips. So who knows, right? I mean, these sort of old pervy guys, I think that's precisely what this entire system is geared up towards, to get them hooked on voyeurism and basically slave trade us entirely.
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure there's, perversion, voyeurism, all sorts of, evil stuff going on, depravity supreme, because this program is depraved. You can't use weapons to access somebody's body without becoming depraved. So the military is doing this. These directed energy weapons should be banned. We know that. But the military is doing this. Okay. Interrupted you. I watched the time because I need to take off very soon. So we should finish up.
Wrap up, because I saw that you were basically, your audio is being sabotaged. So anyway, I just want to say one last thing about this, and then I'll wrap up. I'll talk about this more, because this is, I think my mutilation and my, presumably death at some point is the responsibility of Jonathan Sumption, as far as I can make out, and Sir John Scarlett by induction. So I've got a link to them. But also this means that I'm directly tied in with all the abusive practices of MI6. Okay. So I think John Scarlett himself has got a file as big as you can name it, with many people complaining that he killed trainee agents in certain programs, I think in the 70s. So in other words, I'm basically hooked up to these psychopathic nutters, But, I think what we should do is also group all the cases together that have these similarities, and every victim case that is tying in with these high-profile people, it actually shows the system and shows who needs to be removed from the system for the systems to heal,
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the chat room has been very lively. So if somebody can save the chat, please do. We've been unable to actually respond. My whole connection's flickering on and off. You may have seen it. So I couldn't even respond in chat just now. I think Stephen Shellen is in chat and talking about various things. He made a comment while you were speaking, Catherine, about New Jersey and child trafficking, and saying he had a lot of info on that, which definitely we should probe. We have to bring this show to a close pretty soon, because I'm looking at the time. I have to run and pick up my daughter soon. So any last words from anybody before we close? I should very briefly tell you the restaurant story is nothing much. I went out to lunch, and it was at a Indian restaurant, very empty, because it was, that time in the afternoon on Saturday afternoon. The people at the restaurant, the lady who owns it, whom I recognized from years ago, she's spoken to me very warmly many years ago before I was targeted, etc. She was, color-coded, just like the people at the restaurant, color-coded, and engaging in slight stalking behavior, a lot of noise-making, harassment, and that kind of thing, which I ignored. It was minor. And she made a comment in Hindi to the guys working at the restaurant, okay, and they probably thought I don't know Hindi. I think they must know by now because they've got the intelligence. I'm not from the north of India, I'm from the south of India. So my native language is Tamil, not Hindi, you see. So they thought I couldn't understand it, and they said in Hindi, if she was such a high profile criminal, she could have been caught anytime. They could catch her right now. Wow, I see Stephen has come on. Stephen, can you hear us? Are you here? Couldn't understand it, and they said in Hindi, if she was such a high profile criminal, she could have been caught anytime.
Oh, I think Stephen's playback
Hi,
of our
Steve.
show.
Oh my God.
Stephen, we can hear you. We can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We only see your
We just
Unbelievable.
see a dazzling picture of you, and we can't see you yet.
No, I don't. You don't
hello.
get a shot on
Hello.
It's
Oh.
it's a picture with presence, though.
No, thank you all so much. I just wanted to extend my gratitude, all of you. Thank you so much. It was great listening. Maybe it's better I wasn't on. I mean, in hindsight, because I actually got to listen to everyone, and I wasn't preoccupied with my own, thoughts and words. So thank you, Catherine. That last bit about Jersey, and I think that maybe I'll help wrap things up because I know you're getting off. But when we wonder about this evil what's being inflicted on us, and when you realize who's governing the planet, and that these people are actively engaged in child pedophilia and the ritual abuse. I mean, Prime Minister Heath would abuse boys and throw them off his boat after. I mean, these are diabolical people. So that's kind of, that's
Who
what
we're
we're up
dealing with.
against. I mean,
Absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned that. That is exactly right. We need to bring it down. We need to speak out about the depravity, about the extreme horror of
right.
what these guys are doing,
It's just unbelievable. Anyway, thank you all so much. And hopefully next time I'll have a video that'll work. And
You know what,
Yes, Steve, next time perhaps. Yeah,
come
go
back
ahead,
on
Catherine.
next week. Steve, could you come back next week?
yeah, I'll
Yeah.
try again. I keep trying.
Okay, let's do that.
Your
I
chat
floated
was
the
very
idea.
interesting in the beginning.
Yeah, because my idea was to have a special, because you've got connections to Hollywood and the media and all this. I thought we could maybe bring you on next week and actually have a special episode all to do, because all this child abuse ties also in with Hollywood, and how people there are being terrorized, and
Absolutely. And there'll be more coming out, I anticipate. I think that that Weinstein was maybe he was like central casting for the dirtbag producer that abuses women. I mean, he's so almost atypical. When you think of a sexually abusive producer, of course, Weinstein, he's perfect, but there's a lot more underneath. That's just the tip of the iceberg. And hopefully that more will come out. It's such a controlled place, Hollywood. I have no connections there anymore. It's really it's just so hyper controlled by the bad guys in the agencies. And all due respect, Karen, I know you were in the NSA, and it's like, I don't claim that everybody in the agencies, I hate these sweeping statements where you worked at CERN, so you're bad. Karen worked at NSA, so she's bad. I worked in Hollywood, so I'm bad. It's like, you can't categorically do that. You don't need everyone to be bad. You only need the top level few, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and if people want to know, go ahead, Karen.
I was going to quickly add, there was a ceiling at NSA that you didn't get over unless you were a terrible person.
Right. Okay.
And I bet that's the same in every agency, So I want to tell people while Stephen is on here, Stephen and I had a fantastic conversation yesterday, and we've on a podcast, and we've posted it. Please go listen. It's all about Wired and the History Channel and the label targeted individual and slander and defamation of myself online and himself, and all of our various travails. So do listen. But Stephen, do come back next week.
I will.
If you can come back fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, assume the victory. That's the last thing I'll say. Assume the victory. We're obviously doing something to not just ruffle their feathers, but shake them right down. I mean, something's going on. All right.
Good.
Oh, okay. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you all so much. It was great listening to all of you.
Well, thank you so much, Stephen. And please, next week, it has to be a special episode where we blow this open, because once we do it, it can't be undone. They can't stop it anymore. So,
all right.
I love it. And done. Assume victory. And on that note, I've got to take off. So if you guys are ready, I'll click the go button and we'll all vanish.
Absolutely.
All righty.
See you next week.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. Bye-bye.